This is how to pay off your mortgage, your 30-year mortgage in 10 years or less. Welcome back, everybody. It's Rodrigo, founder with Asheville Real Estate News. Really excited about our guests today. And as you'll notice, it's the first time we have two guests. And before we even get into the interview, and just to let you know, it's going to be a good one. If you find it helpful, don't forget to share it on Facebook, tag us on Instagram, let us know what you think. If you have any questions, let us know. We will try to do our best to answer them to the best of our ability. So, welcome, Carolyn. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We live in Asheville, obviously, a very unique little place in the world that,
Indeed.
I don't know if you knew this actually, it was named one of the top 15 destinations in the world by Forbes.
Wow.
So not like cities or anything like that, specific destinations. We're like competing with like Madagascar and crazy things like that.
Oh my gosh, That's incredible.
Which always leads to the next question. Why Asheville? How'd you end up here? What's your all story?
I actually moved here because I hiked the Appalachian Trail in '99, and I fell in love with Asheville and decided to go to a small university.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose UNCA. Moved here in 2000.
Gotcha. No?
And my family is from the area.
So you're a local?
I'm one of the very few natives to Asheville.
You might be the first native on the show, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but I think it is off my gut feel. So very cool.
Yep.
So you've been here since 2000. You've been here your whole life. I've been here since 2009. It's an easy place to stay. I was planning to only be here 1 year, and then I stuck around because I couldn't find a good reason to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So as you all know, this is we try to just talk about real estate and real estate related topics here. And we met through mutual acquaintance, Greg here at the office. And he introduced us, talks about your crazy program and what you teach people as far as how do you do that? Pay off a mortgage in 10 years or less. And maybe you can give us like a quick overview and then we can get into some of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, it's really just a fantastic software program that allows you to treat your money like a bank does. So you can sort of have some tools that banks use. So you can accelerate your interest payoff just by strategic timing and using things like bank float and principles like that.
Okay.
It's extremely powerful. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean I do in real estate. You always look like Einstein's right. The eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest.
Yes.
So it's incredible. If anybody's ever looked at an amortization table, that curve just goes crazy.
Yes, and they should look at their amortization table.
Yeah, there's a lot of good free tools to do that, right?
Yes.
Do you have a favorite, by the way?
I don't off the top of my head. You?
I
Put you on the spot.
have it somewhere, not on my head.
The one I use a lot,
Yeah.
and some it's not super easy to use, but it typically does really well for what I look for. It's Bankrate.com because it's something that we're always really strategically looking at is
Yes.
what you pay for a house if you're getting it financed is not really what you're paying as far as what your sticker price is.
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's actually why I wanted to start the blog, is to really help people become aware first and foremost of what they're doing with their money.
Right. And why do you think that maybe a lot of people don't think about that or they're not aware of that? Where's the misconnection? And they're like, I'm buying a house for $200,000 and you end up paying to pay $350,000 or $400,000 depending to what type of mortgage you have, right? So
yeah, I think we think of mortgages as a monthly thing. I don't think we think about the overall and the impact of it. I think it's partly just marketing. I think it's a product that a bank is selling us, and I think the way most people think about it has to do with the marketing of these financial products.
And the marketing that you think we receive as consumers from the banks?
Yes.
So what happened for you to even get interested in this? Like, what was your Eureka moment? I mean, I'd love to hear both of y'all's. Obviously, probably had different ones for different reasons, but.
Yeah. When I became aware of this product and started looking at, getting ready to buy a house, being 40 years old and having a 3-year-old and kind of just wanting to take a much more real look at my financial picture and being a very average kind of American, which is not a good statistic to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then really feeling like I want to help other people know this too, because I'm an educated person, and I typically think I'm pretty conscious. And becoming aware of it was really enlightening and powerful for me.
But what happened for you? Was there a moment where you're like, oh my goodness, I need to relook at the way I see like my mortgage and how I analyze this whole? Because a lot of people say it's like a house is most people's biggest purchase of their life, right?
Yes.
And so what happened for you to re-shift the way you looked at that and approached that purchase, I guess?
I think definitely looking at how much we were going to be paying for our house overall was a huge wake-up call. I had no idea that it was going to cost that much. I just hadn't multiplied, the term by the payment.
Right.
To see the big picture.
Oh, how about yourself?
And for me, recently in this past year, I had a career change and I had to leave my job. And I was fortunate enough to be debt-free and have probably 6 to 8 months worth of income or expenses saved up. So, I knew I could change my life and I could walk away from my job without having to worry what comes next. And just the freedom that allowed me to have. And so empowering other individuals to be able to eliminate debt and create wealth and have that freedom to choose how to spend their time and their life.
Yeah. And I think it's far more attainable than we kind of collectively think it is. People think debt payoff is going to require eating ramen noodles for years or something like that, and it's doesn't.
But you can, right? If you don't run your numbers well.
You can.
Run your numbers. No, so on a serious note though, right? So I'm buying a house where I say I just purchased a house. I'm like, all right, I really want to pay this down quickly. How do I do that? What's the first step then?
I'm going to use the software program and I'm going to input all of my debts and payments and interest rates. And it is actually going to recommend, I recommend you pay this amount on this date with the same existing budget that I had before. So I don't have to, if I have extra money suddenly come in, I can definitely throw that toward it and it'll tell me what's the most effective way to pay something off or put it in this account. So that's really helpful. But that's what I'm going to use.
First step is going to be made just organizing all your debts.
Yes.
And then you get that, you get it into the program. And so what's step number 2 then? How do we go from organization to implementation?
Right. One of probably the best feature of our software system is that you can put in different scenarios, and instead of guessing what this money is going to impact your payoff, you put that scenario through the system and it will tell you exactly what impact that's going to have on your overall finances long term.
And so when you're organizing these debts, I've always heard that there's 2 schools of thoughts, right? You pay off whichever one is your lowest monthly payment, or you pay off whichever one has your highest interest. What
highest interest?
High interest first?
Yeah. For me, I see I'm a long-term thinker.
Okay.
And over the long term, that's going to save you the most money, paying off the highest interest first. Some people like lowest account balance because that'll give them like a psychological boost.
Yeah, it's the motivating
factor. Winning's always good.
Money is a good psychological boost as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't look at it that way, right? Like, because I think we did a whole episode on whether you should rent or buy. And that's one of the whole questions, right? Which one is more important? It comes down to, what is it really a monthly payment worth?
Yeah.
Love to get your perspective on that in a little bit, actually. So we get these organized, we start paying down our highest interest debt first, right? And then at a certain standpoint, I'm guessing all of these, do they roll into each other, or what happens once you pay your first loan off, or your highest debt off then?
Well, if you're using the program, it runs all those numbers for you. So you don't have to pick lowest account or highest interest rates arbitrarily yourself. It'll pick which one for you, and you can force it to pick one over the other, and it will tell you the long-term impact that'll have, which one will save you the most money in the long term.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So as you're moving through this, say, how long the average, is there an average cycle? Right? I know we always talk to, we're calling this 10 years or less to pay off your 30-year mortgage. How many variables are that? So, some people are going to get a mortgage on the house and they're still going to have $50,000 worth of debt on other revolving credits, cars, interest loan or student loans, credit cards, etc. How does that fit in? I know you're going to say, oh, well, the program's going to spit out a number, but
Yeah.
In your all's experience and the people you've worked with and whatnot, what is that, how does that mesh up together?
The more debts you have, the better the program can work for you. Because it gets, exponentially more complicated to figure out what is the most efficient way. Like if I'm on a tight budget and I have an extra $150, I want it to count as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if you have 5 debts, you have 120 different or something options of how to do that. So you're not going to figure it out. You're going to make a guess.
Right.
So this takes the guesswork out of it.
Okay.
If you just have a mortgage and that's the only debt you have, then you pay as much on the principal extra as you can every month.
Okay, so let's talk about that then.
On average, the users are saving 18 years on mortgage payments.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yes.
So how do you know if you're paying on your principal or you're just making a large payment?
That's a good question.
Because there's different schools of thoughts, right? So do you pay like twice a month, once a week, or do you have to call into the bank
and some
and
banks
be
won't
like,
allow
right? Some
extra
banks
payments.
So how do you make sure that when you do make a payment, you make it directly to the principal and it's not just like paying a couple months in advance or whatever?
I'm going to have to think about that one.
Okay.
I'm going to have to source.
Answers coming.
Yes.
Yeah, no, please let me know. Because I think one of the things that's always challenges, like, talking to banks is always super frustrating.
Yes.
And so how do you really trust the answer? And maybe there's not a golden bullet in this, but where you can say, hey, like, I know I'm going to be paying just the principal.
Yes. Gosh, that's an excellent point. That's super critical.
So
that's how you cancel that interest.
Because if you're just paying the interest, then so what? It kind of defeats the purpose. As you're doing through this, something that's standing out to me. It sounds like there's a lot of this that's just like fiscal and mental discipline. What's like the big tip to give to somebody? Okay, this is how you stay on track, and this is how you make sure that you got that extra $100. You don't go spend it on a X activity or buying X article of clothing or whatever. How do you encourage people, or how's the support for that to make sure that you use it and apply it well?
I mean, I think it's kind of like a shame and blame kind of issue. I think that people just feel guilty and they don't want to face their situation in an honest way. They're ashamed of getting themselves into this. They feel stupid or something like that. And it's like, when you just got to be brave and take a real look at it, come up with a plan, and I think just kind of take care of yourself and be kind to yourself, and then quickly make progress and celebrate that in healthy ways.
That would make sense.
I think being intentional, whether that is taking a little extra money to treat yourself, or what's your big goal? Is your biggest goal to pay off your debt so that you can enjoy life more once it's eliminated? So being intentional and having our real numbers in front of us constantly. Yeah,
and if you have a good monthly plan, if you're paying yourself first, and your money is going where you want it to go intentionally, then you'll have some budget that you can do whatever you want with it, and you don't have to feel bad about it. You can just enjoy your life.
So what do you tell somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck? They're gonna be like, "Are you kidding me? Pay myself first?" What's the answer to that, or how do you?
It depends on the
unique
situation. I mean, I would sit down with them and I would, take a look at the numbers. And there's so many great resources online. There's so many awesome blogs and so many motivational.
What's your favorite?
Teachers.
If you're gonna be like, somebody's like, hey, I really want to get started. I know I need to make some changes, etc., so I can start tackling my mortgage. It's or I'm thinking about buying a house, and when I buy it, I want to make sure I'm ready to do this well and do it quickly.
I love David Bach.
Okay.
He's my number one favorite right now.
Bach?
BACH.
Okay.
And there are some really fantastic podcasts. I love Financial Panther.
Okay.
I think he's hilarious and awesome. What's your favorite?
There's Millennial Boss.
Okay.
About paying off debts is really awesome. And Mr. Money Mustache is really funny.
You better be with a name like that. Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Crazy Kicks. There's some good names for sure.
So in other words, there's an abundance of different opportunities or resources to get tuned into this and figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's kind of this whole underground wave of like young people who are making good money and realizing that they don't have to have a lifestyle that matches that. You know, on the outside they can be a little more thrifty and actually create their own financial freedom early in life, retire early, and they're all sharing resources with each other on how to invest and all of that.
Absolutely,
very
I agree
cool.
wholeheartedly with you. There's we live in such a wonderful age for information and for being able to like tackle anything that's important to you. So I got 2 more questions for you, but before we get to those, where do the people find more about your program? How do they sign up to learn more about you? I know you got a blog and things like that, but where do people go to connect with you and hear more?
She's ellaseaman.com.
Okay.
Seaman.com and at Ella Seaman Finances on Facebook and Instagram.
And I'm CarolynKramer.com.
Okay, great. And obviously we'll throw all that in the links for the show and whatnot.
Awesome.
So, all right. So you mentioned something that's really intriguing, and that I think there's a lot of different definitions on, and really would be very interested to hear your definition on what financial freedom is for each of you. How would you define that?
Yeah. For me, it means not feeling stressed or worried, and knowing that my daughter is also taken care of, that I have, I typically think of it as like having a large lump sum saved and earning interest and living off of the interest on that lump sum.
Gotcha.
Ultimately, financial freedom would be having enough money and investments to not have to have obligated work. I think I've heard it called. But right now, having enough of a cushion to be able to step back and make changes and large life decisions and choose where your money's going. So not being obligated to debts or large purchases that you really can't afford month to month.
And not have to live on a strict budget, because that's just a pain in the ass. That's no fun.
I think everybody would, if you could ditch the budget, most people probably would be happy to do that. But
like a large general budget, like you're intentional about your money, but you're not having to think about it all the time.
Yeah, no, there's freedom in not having to count every single time you make a purchase. So obviously, that's something that probably most people in the world are consistently working on. So and so another question, when this is a conversation I've had with a couple of other people before, but is purchasing a house as your primary residence an investment? Yes or no, and why?
I think it depends on the situation. I think it depends on the person and what their financial situation is. I think if you can afford a house and if you can afford to pay it off aggressively so that you're not paying, like we said, 70% more than the actual value of the home in interest, and especially if you could like rent a room, Airbnb or something like that.
Figure out a way to have your mortgage payment covered.
Just a fantastic asset.
Yeah, and
an investment, by definition, I believe, makes you money. So are you going to turn around and sell that eventually, or is it going to generate some sort of income for you, or is it just a place to live?
I'm glad you bring it up, because personally I am of the belief that if it's your primary residence, it's hard for it to be considered an investment, because yes, it does not put money in your pocket every month. Not that you can't profit from it down the road, but it's not a given.
It's not a given.
Right. So cool. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, check us out on Facebook, check us out on Instagram. If you found this helpful, share it out, tell your friends about it. Would love to hear what you think. So thank you once again. My name is Rodrigo. It's Carolyn and Ella. Check us out on Instagram, and let us know where you're going. They got great websites, good resources.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.